Hello everybody, meet the gang, 'cause the boys are here, the boys to entertain you. I think that's the song you're thinking of, Darren? The bit of It Ain't Our Fault, Mum? Is that aging us both? Fucking genius comedy series from the 80s, question mark?
Aging you.
Yeah, that's it, Orinoco, from It Ain't Our Fault, Mum. Which has been parodied recently by Rule Set, isn't it? We're Not Dead Yet, Mum?
I don't know.
Oh, is that Too Fat Lardy's Rule Set? Somebody fact check me.
I'm not down with the kids.
Right. Anyway, chat's busy. The gang show that the scares. Yeah, don't know that one. Right. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Thursday night live stream here on Yellow Belly Tabletop. First of all, say hello to everybody in the chat. I think we've got all of our usual faces here. We've got some dude on YouTube, Tim. Hopefully you can stay awake, sir. Darren, Cheeseme, Orinoco. I noticed Paul Howells was in earlier, and I assume he's still here.
Is Ricky here?
Let's have a quick. I'm sure.
Because I've not long spoken to Ricky, but
do you know what? When you got to scroll back on your chat at the start of your show. Yeah, I think I've caught all of you. Welcome to the show, guys. Great to see you here as usual. And if you're joining us later on YouTube, hello to you as well. So, over the next couple of hours, David and I will be doing our usual format. For those of you who are new to the rock and roll, that is the Yellow Belly Tabletop Show. We will talk about what we're going to be hobbying on, because we like to get some work done while we sit here and talk bollocks for 2 hours.
do we? Do we really?
We like to. I'm not saying we actually do, but we do like to. Then we'll talk about our gaming club week, where Monday night is our regular gaming club night, so we'll have something to tell you about that. Then we'll chat a bit of news, talk about some YouTube-y stuff and other internet nonsense. Yeah, you do what you want to do, Paul. You just carry on there, sir. Darren's already in. So yeah, just for everybody who's new to the experience, we want to know what you've been hobbying on as well. If you're live, stick it in the chat. If you're watching later, stick it in the comments. Darren's busy as usual. He's got a Northumbrian Tin Soldier Knight Adventurer model. Is this to run as a character in 5 leagues, or just to add to your collection for general use, Darren? I don't think David's going to be torturing us with his airbrush hiss. Hello, Crispin! Yes, you did! Dick Crispin finally got a golden button on his OnTableTop project. For those of you who are joining us outside of the OnTableTop or Otter Circle, there is a fantastic wargaming or general gaming related channel, anything to do with tabletop gaming. They cover board games, role-playing games, on tabletop.com. Go there, join the community. It's much more than just a news website. There's a massive community that lies behind it. Go and join the gang. Hello, Spam and Egg.
You get meet some nutters like this motley crew.
Most of this motley crew are from that arena. But yeah, there is indeed a sort of. It's got a built-in simplified blog, but it's obviously designed for content around the tabletop gaming hobby. The guys that run the OnTableTop project frequently, at least every week, hand out some awards for what they think are outstanding projects. And as we've just seen, Crispin himself just won one after much nagging and bitching. But he got there.
In the end.
It is called Beasts of War as well. There's a whole story. Tim, if some dude on YouTube, Tim, in the chat, also has a YouTube channel. He will be doing an hour-long documentary on the change of name from Beasts of War to OnTabletop.com. So feel free to keep checking back until he's done that documentary. And until he does that documentary, just spam his chat or his comments, please. feel free.
It's
Okay,
all
Tim,
on him.
got you a bit of engagement there. Anyway, I've got derailed, and we're not even 5 minutes in. So yeah,
It doesn't take long to derail you, does it, mate?
internet news, nonsense, and waffly blah 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 blah. Then it's going live on Tuesday. Yeah. No, it ain't. No, really.
You've just ruined his weekend, Paul. That's what you've done.
So, about 9 o'clock-ish, we will tackle our main topic. It's just a general discussion. We're not putting forward any controversial sort of argument.
We're not taking names and numbers tonight.
Nah,
we're not the Gestapo.
We're just going to talk about campaigning or campaign game modes within tabletop. So, and we'll touch on everything. Obviously, David and I primarily come from a wargaming background, but we've dabbled in RPGs and board games, and definitely it applies. So we will touch upon it all. And hopefully you guys will get stuck in the chat and give us loads of fantastic input like you do every week. Right, mate. So, David, I think Cheese Me wants to know, where are your towel?
Where are my towel? I would like to report they are still lost. Because I've not bothered to look for them, because fuck playing a game that's bollocks.
We haven't. Oh, hello, Toffee is. No, we haven't done the Assassin's Creed joke yet. Although we will be eating massive portions of humble pie when it comes to the news.
You'll be eating more humble pie than I am, because at least you've started that project and made headway on it, whereas I've just not documented it for anyone. There's nothing on the internet for people to pull me up on other than the fact that I made a pledge and I'm not a man of my words, but we'll gloss over that subject matter.
Okay, so there's no evidence that you're a failure, but you are a failure.
Well, there's also evidence. I've got other things to fry, like I'm owed 20 quid from you at some point.
First of all, you have to deliver on the bet. Or say,
yeah, I'm going to.
Just for everybody else at home, David was going to paint an entire bolt action army in 2 weeks. And if he doesn't, he owes me 20 quid. That's all I'm saying.
If I do, you owe me 20 quid as well, mate.
But it's not happening.
It is happening.
Cheers, everybody. I've got a little splash of whiskey. Early birthday present from the wife. Thank you, Rosanna. Right. Do you want me to go first with hobby?
Please, because I'm currently trying to work out what tanks are what for Flames of War, because I took all the turrets off them when I was dry brushing them last night.
I'm glad I glued mine on now.
Yeah, right. But at least mine are removable for playing the fucking game as required, unlike yours.
He has. Cheese me, the bolt action hasn't started. So the pledge was made months ago, and David is like, he's deliberately stopped at a given point so that technically his 2-week clock hasn't started. So at the moment, we're hashtag bolt action fail. We have another hashtag. I'm so glad. We must be the most hashtagged people on the internet, mate. How are we not fucking megastars right now? Okay, let's go. So what am I going to be doing? David has wrote me into a game of Armada on Monday. We normally have board games on...
Don't sound fucking sad about it, you
I'm
dickhead.
not. Let me finish. Jesus. Normally we play board games first Monday of the month, but we've sort of fallen into a routine now of just picking up tabletop war games. I played some Fancy 8th, and we didn't have anything definite planned, so David just said, oh, it's all right, I've scheduled Armada. So I'm like, that's fine, I'll jump in. And you've got some multiplayer scenarios, haven't you, sir?
Yes, I have. So
this is the scheme I'm going with. As you can see, really simple. We've got ducks. These are all Vallejo model colour for anybody who cares. dark sand on the sails. The chocolate brown, I think it is on like the masts and the upper hull. We've got, I think it's red leather on the lower hull. And the bit that's killing me is all of this gold. So I rather insanely decided to paint all of the edging,
trimming,
and trim detail in gold. And there is tons of it. So that one is probably 80% finished, ready for the wash and the basing, and a bit of tidying up because I've wandered offline a bit. These are the ones I'm tackling now. So as you can see, we're on Operation Fry Your Brain with Gold. So these are what I'm going to be doing tonight.
We've started something now. We've got fucking 2 weeks bolt action painting challenge. Hashtag. Hashtag where's the rigging? Hashtag ship needs rigging.
No,
just fucking everyone has started now.
I don't put rigging on ships because, as Anthrax said, there would only be frigging in it. So, right, mate. That's what I'm up to.
What's the difference between a jumbo turret and I don't know. We'll go over here. Are we live for the internet and all and sundry to see?
You are now, sir. Ooh, decals. We need a decal hashtag, people.
And then, once the decals are on and set, we're going to go attack it with this.
Do you know what? I have one of these Vallejo washes. I have oiled earth. I don't know if anybody can see that. I'll put it up to the little wing cam. But it's got so much sediment. And
it's fucking pigmenty, isn't it?
Yeah, it's so heavily bodied. I'm shit scared to use it. Have you used the Vallejo washes?
No, I haven't.
Okay, so you're
going to experiment.
Friggin' in the rigging.
Decals for the win.
Don't talk to me about Tank God, John. If anybody, I'm assuming you guys have seen the latest 3 Colours Up video where he does a Chiha way better than me.
What, did he actually leave his turret removable so that the camouflage looked appropriate?
Well, he did. I don't know if it's removable, but certainly in the shots, the turret is full forward. It may have been
removable at the time that he painted it and then glued it on after because he's not a heathen.
Yeah. Oh, mate, it's just such a good paint job. The man's fucking annoying.
Jumbo turret is up armoured and has a shorter barrel. Well, this is slightly awkward because they've all got the same fucking barrel length.
I'm afraid Jerry may be sort of like the expert currently on flames, so you've probably done it wrong. Anyway.
Oh no, I think I found it.
Okay, so apart
Jerry, are we still the one on the right, the jumbo turret? I think it is.
So right or left, Jerry, for jumbo. So after you found which bits go with which tank, you're what, putting all the decals on?
Yes. Well, we're going to have a mess around with some new Vallejo product that I bought at Dicini. So we've got some decal fix and some decal softener.
Yeah, it's the right-hand one, and it's actually the thickness of the barrel that varies, not the length.
Okay.
Thanks, Jerry.
Thank you, Gaming Gandalf.
So now you must be a bit. You did sort of scale modelling? So surely you're a decal expert, aren't you?
Yes, at sensible sizes, not 15 fucking mil.
It's not that bad, you wimp.
You are like Thrush, sir.
So now, show the people at home, what decal products are you using tonight?
Decal Fix from Vallejo.
It's the Vallejo ones. Okay,
and Decal Softener from Vallejo.
Did you get them at, is it
Dicini?
Oh, Dicini.
No, Dicini.
Okay.
Dicini.
You'll have to let me know how they go. I use the micro set. And I do find it a very good product, but you'll have to let us know.
Jumbo doesn't go on an Easy 8 suspension. There we go. Better. See, I
Right.
can tell the difference between an Easy 8 and a standard Sherman because they made that nice and easy.
Right.
Fuck me.
So are you done then, sir?
I'm done.
Right. There we go. So let's crack
move
on.
that
I
to
can
one
get rid of this
side.
camera, which is in my face, now that I've shown everybody what's going on.
And now we're going to go to the Colours of War book and find reference material.
To see where to put your decals.
Yes, where's a Pershing? Oh, you bastard. I might have to internet this as well.
No, that's PVA. Don't want to do that. Put
What are you
PVA in your
PVA-ing?
wet palette instead of water. Schoolboy error.
I may have also made a schoolboy error.
What?
On my Flames of War, I've got the windscreens folded down on the Jeeps.
Right.
Guess where the fucking star goes?
Ah!
On the fucking bonnet!
Oh dear. At least they're not glued in place, are they?
Yeah, they are. They're attached, permanently attached. So I might have to do some decal bastardizing.
Yeah. If the windshield's got a straight edge, shouldn't it be too difficult to cut the decal?
Yeah, but the fact that you can see through the fucking windows is going to trigger me.
You just have to paint it, freehand it.
I'd rather not.
Dear. So, Tough Years is working on Leviathan, Marines.
Yeah.
So have you already done the Tyranid half, Tuffy? Or are you just, is the Marine half the first one you're doing? Hashtag schoolboy error, Jesus Christ, this is getting out of hand.
Hashtag out of hand.
Mate, Jerry's saving you 10 minutes. Large star either side of the turret, small star front upper glasses plate.
Yeah, but my glasses plates are full.
Have you put shit on them?
Yeah, tank, fucking treads and stuff.
Oh, regrets.
Because the Shermans are not renowned for being heavily armoured. So what did the tank crews used to do? Slap fucking things all over it.
Nice, Tuffy. Do you know what, Darren? I'm relatively naive when it comes to the historical stuff. I've literally only done one bolt action project, which was
true.
Fall of Malaya, very early war, Japanese, British.
And you're that triggered by it. You haven't even got any fucking decals on your British vehicles.
Well, no, to be fair, because I haven't finished them yet. Well, to be fair, the British finding information about how to decal British vehicles pre 1942, I found really hard. I asked Tank Guru John, and he was none the wiser either. So, don't know. So, and anyway, as I was saying, Darren, before I was rudely interrupted by my co-host.
You weren't rudely fucking interrupted.
Yes, I was.
No, you weren't.
Oh dear, that's a lot of gold paint. What was I going to say? I really enjoyed getting into the sort of button countery side of it. Doing the research, and not that I could find out an awful lot because it's a terrible part of the war to try and find resources on, particularly for gaming. But it was great. You're welcome, Ellen. So yeah, never say never, mate. Never say never. There is a joy to it. What should we talk about? Let's talk about club night. So, Monday night is our regular club night. This week, I do, mate. If Toros, if you know how what markings I should be putting on Singapore universal carriers and like light vehicles, British Army. Send me some links or PM me in OTT because I couldn't really find much. I think I did. The only thing I found was a reference to there was some sort of edict from the Ministry of Defence that there should be a standardised numbering system for vehicles and assets. Pre that time, like there was a letter code and then a number which was like generally the year. So you would have like T39 for 1939, and then there might be another number denoting its number in the platoon or regiment or whatever. But it's really vague.
Oh shit! Now what size do I use? Fucking hell! This is a nightmare job. Oh god.
For the Japanese, I did use an American firm. I couldn't tell you, American guy.
Yeah, you ordered them, didn't you, from Tinterweb?
And he had a great range of decals, even like individual markings for the units in the Malaya campaign, the whatever. So I bought one that was sort of the right sort of time period and place for fall of Singapore. But it's the British that I've struggled with.
I'll tell you what I do need before I start this arduous process is probably a pair of tweezers.
Yeah, you definitely need to get yourself sorted. Anyway, club. I played some Malifaux.
Of course you did.
So...
Where did my tweezers go? Sorry, boys and girls at home, you're going to get to see my pretty face up close a minute.
A friend of mine, Trevor, Upworlder in the chat.
Is he here tonight or not?
I don't think so. I haven't seen him, so I'm assuming he's busy doing something. We've got into the routine of playing Malifaux, basically whenever we can arrange a game. It's not quite once a month, but you've always got too many games to play and not enough time to play them. I'm sure you guys know that.
And will be discussed later in the main topic.
Yes, true. That will feed back into the main topic. So, Trevor has settled upon Jackdaw as his master, who is an Outcasts master.
Yeah, I want to say Outcasts.
Yeah, I think he's Outcasts. And
where's my fourth chappie?
So, and I do have two war bands or crews. I have Wong for the Bayou, and I have Asami Tanaka for the 10 Thunders, who are she's the weird Japanese demon summoner. And I've basically been sticking to playing with Asami to try and get to a stage where I master her. One of the things, as those of you who watched us regularly will have seen, I bought a ton of Oni demons at UKGE this year, basically just sort of almost doubled my Malifaux collection in one fell swoop. Because one of the great features about Asami as a leader is she does have this ability to just summon models. So as long as a model has the Oni keyword, i.e. it is a demon, she can, as long as you own it, you can summon it to use within your game. And what this does is it gives you a huge range of options. If you need to summon something with fast movement to go and get a job done, place a token, whatever, you can summon like a Tengu. If you need to summon something that's a little bit more beat, sticky, and aggressive to deal with a particular opponent's resistances, you can do that instead. As I say, the one caveat is you need to own the models. So, although I rarely do this and just buy a whole collection, I normally build a warband or build a list and then I stop and move on. Asami is probably,
Different.
for good or bad, one of those masters where it actually incentivizes you to collect as many of the Oni models as possible because it gives you great flexibility. For this game, I painted up and played with the Obsidian Oni, which was a new model for me. My main reason for choosing to do them first was they get around several problems that I had playing Trevor last time. So Trevor has these models that have a terrifying keyword, which means that you have to test against your willpower before you can even attack them. Otherwise you just go, oh, too scary. But the Obsidian only ignore that rule, which was really bloody handy. And
the fact that they're like fucking grenades,
yeah,
and you painted them for painting comp this month.
Yeah, the other thing, you'll see them next week when we put up pictures for painting competition, because I will be entering them into the club comp. But basically, the way the Oni plays, they're a bit like hand grenades. You summon them, charge them into the enemy, power them up with attacks, and then they just go bang, and, you know, just do a load of burning damage and that. So they're really hyper aggressive, and they're not too difficult to summon. You only need...
They're quite cheap.
Well, the way the summoning works is the amount you need to cast your spell to summon them, the number you need to flip on your card, because obviously Malifaux is a card driven game, not a dice driven game. You need to flip a number that relates to the cost, and I think it's 10 plus the model's cost, but then you can deduct 6 because that's the skill value of Asami. So what it meant in the long and short of it, if I had an 11 or more, I could use that to summon one of these Obsidian Oni. And obviously that's equivalent to a Jack in a normal deck of cards. So Jacks, Queens, Kings, they're all good. So it meant I pretty much always had the option to cast them. The spiders I'm quite proud of, Darren, thank you. That is actually based on an actual colour scheme for a species of spider I found on the internet. I think it's even called the demon spider, and it's native to Southeast Asia. It's got like a scarlet underbelly and then the yellow and blue striping on the abdomen. And I thought, well, that's pretty apt, so I'll nick that.
That's mine now. I licked it. It's mine.
That's mine. So yeah, fantastic game. Table looked great, even though this, I think this is, who's this terrain, mate? It's gone out of my head.
Club.
Sarissa, thank you. So this is Sarissa Precision stuff. Not painted, but it still looks great. I think it's basically got brown, the Ukrainian
brown
Russian
base coating,
spider.
isn't it?
Yeah, that's it. Ukrainian colours. Look at me, down with the kids. Yeah, this is the Sarissa stuff. I think it's got Army Painter leather brown spray on it, just as a primer, but we've not really got round to finishing it. But it looks fine.
Many years.
It looks fine as it is. And the table looked okay.
And my road's got an outing.
Yes, David, if you can just see them coming from the bridge, if you look at the bridge that's in the centre of your screen now, the road that goes under both ends of the bridge, these are the ones that we showed off last week, I think, that David got from that eBay seller, wasn't it, mate?
Fat Frank,
yeah. That's where the good news ends. I got absolutely pounded in this game. I ended up losing.
don't let him get away with it. You need to say why you were pounded, though, because you can't read the rules.
Okay, so I lost 6-3. And to be fair, we did make a massive gaff because we only play like Malifaux once every 6 to 8 weeks. I forgot when you're placing scheme markers, they have to be at least 4 inches away from each of your other friendly scheme markers. Scheme markers, for those who don't know, is a sort of scoring mechanic within Malifaux that allows you to score secondary objectives and stuff. And basically, Trevor was getting one of these secondary objectives by just spamming these scheme markers an inch apart, and I forgot they needed to be 4 inches apart. But because it was sort of like my bad, I just sort of like let him have it. But do you know what? As it turned out, Trevor played a fantastic game. It's 4 inches, Jerry, in the M3 rulebook. If you look under scheme markers, it says the conditions for placing them are that your model must not be engaged and you cannot place them within 4 inches of a friendly scheme marker. So you can place them within 4 inches of enemy, but not friendly. And anyway, even if I stripped Trevor of his 2 points for this secondary, this scheme as it's called, he still beat me 4-3 because he beat me on the main strategy. So it is what it is. I lost whichever way you look at it. But as I say, Trevor played a great game. He made a couple of
boo-boos?
No, he made a couple of fantastic decisions during the game, and in a way, I activated my models in the wrong order to allow him to counteract me. If I'd have, because this is the beauty of an alternating activation game. With an alternating activation game, there's often as much skill and thought needs to go into what you activate as to what you do with it when you activate it. Because you can tip your opponent off to what you're trying to achieve, and then they can move to work against you. But if you switch things around, you can do feints and stuff like that. And basically, it was why Trevor beat me on the main, because he basically contested me on one of the strategy markers and denied me points in a turn. And the other thing that he did really smart was the Obsidian only, as I've said earlier, were quite nasty for his list. They countered a lot of his rules. They were hyper aggressive. They put a ton of burning tokens on everything, which means that they take damage at the end phase as well as when they get attacked. And basically, he quickly worked out these were fucking horrible, and he used his cheat models to just block me and, deflect. So they only basically wasted their sort of opportunities, and they didn't do the maximum damage. He did cluster up a bit, which meant that he took a lot of casualties. And again, for everybody who's not played Malifaux before, I lost 6-3, but I nearly tabled him. In Malifaux, it doesn't matter. The Malifaux is one of those few tabletop war games, where the war aspect of it is very nicely balanced by the scenarios and the game structure. If you play a very smart game, your opponent, it can technically kill you to a man in turn 5, but if you're winning on points, you win with an empty table. And fair play to Trevor. Models were getting blown up left, right and centre, but it didn't matter. He stuck to the plan and he scored his points and left me in the dust. It was a good game, very good game. I do like, again, the more I play Malifaux, the more I enjoy it. It is a very technical game. If you're a first timer, don't really recommend it. I don't know if you've got any opinions, Jerry, because I know you played it for the first time last weekend, didn't you? but it is a good game once you start to get under the bonnet, if not the easiest. What about you, sir? What did you get up to?
I had to start a game of Armada. So I was teaching Leon, one of the new guys at club, about Armada and how we play Armada and everything else, and it was quite a good game. It was all going quite well until the end, when unfortunately most of Leon's ships couldn't weather the storm and ended up sunk.
Okay.
Either through poor captaincy running into themselves, or aground was another one. Sunk when it ran aground.
Yeah. So Leon's not got a huge wealth of experience at the war game side.
But he
It's
did
more
enjoy.
RPGs. Did he enjoy it?
Yeah, he did enjoy it, and he's coming back for more.
Oh, that's good. Do you know what? I don't know what you guys have found, or if you've played Armada, but we found Armada's gone down really well at our club.
Yes,
I don't think there's anybody who's played it who hasn't enjoyed it. It's a very slick rule set.
Yes, it is.
I do like it. And it seems to sort of like appeal to a lot of different skill.
Yeah, with it, it's again, I think it's that thing of, oh look, I'm captaining an entire fleet now. Do you know what I mean? It gives you a sense of game and battle that you don't necessarily get from other games, but without having to have a major amount of minis for it either, which is really nice. Do you know what I mean?
Jerry's got me concerned. Apparently the guy who told him that they had to be 6 inches apart is some, like, high-flying, I used to play Malifaux for a living. Being a bit hyperbolic there, but... So, I'm just having a look to see if I've got my M3 rulebook handy to make sure I'm not talking bullshit. But sadly, I think it's upstairs.
Fair enough. Oh dear. Right, we're on Operation Put Stars.
Oh, it might have been.
On tanks.
It might have been. It's Henchman Hardcore. That's the mode where you don't have masters, isn't it? And play with smaller teams. Is that right, Jerry?
Don't you love a monster man? Do you understand beauty of the beast? We'll see if we get these finished in time for the competition on Monday.
Well, do your best, mate. Even if you can only get 1 or 2, you don't have to finish the whole damn lot.
Yeah, but I'm doing it as a big batch paint, aren't I?
Yeah, but if it starts to get to the wire, just sort of jump on 1 or 2 and take them to the end. You can always bring the rest up at, later. Just gives you something to plop on the table, doesn't it?
True. Bollocks. Now I remember why doing decals was the worst part of the fucking scale hobby for me.
Right, not something you enjoyed.
No, just water everywhere and just a nightmare.
I must confess there are jobs I hate more. I don't do a lot of decals, but
I mean, they're going on okay. I'm maybe being a bit hyperbolic, but what is the time? Fucking hell, it's 20 to 9 already. Fuck me!
I know. I need to get through the videos and that we've got lined up. Just gonna do the gold paint on this figurehead. Get that painted underneath. These are very pretty models, but Jesus, regrets on the fucking painting. So...
Why do you lie so hard?
Yeah, so Jerry says, 30 points and 4 figures. Do you know what? That's the other thing. We played full 50 Soulstone Malifaux, and we basically got to the beginning of turn 5. It was technically, we wrapped turn 4 up, but turn 5 wouldn't have changed a huge amount because the maximum I could have scored was 2 points. So I would have taken it to 6-5. It was still Trevor's game, so we were like, ah, fuck it. And we'd gone late, so... but it, you know, even yeah, tough years. He always loves a good slap on the table, do you? Oh dear. Where's
Is
Crispin?
that a euphemism? Or...
Yeah, I think so. Crispin's probably going to wade in a minute with some other obscenity and double entendre. So, where were we? Web browser. So...
Oh, it's a bit wet.
Things that we've seen that were quite interesting. This was something we talked about at McDonald's after Gaming Club on Monday.
What was this?
Call of Duty, the board game. Now live on Kickstarter.
Oh, it's live, is it?
Yes, sir. Now, you mentioned this, mate, didn't you? Because I think you'd seen it. Now, I don't care for Call of Duty in the computer game sense. So I'd not heard of
Couldn't
this.
give a tinker's jizz.
Yeah. But actually, as we were talking about it, I thought, basically, forget the computer tie-in. Obviously, it's going to be a board game with sort of maybe some miniature wargaming elements to it? Question mark. And having had a quick scan through the Kickstarter here, do you know what? It might be something that does interest me. It does actually look quite good. I'll tell you what is interesting, the pre-painted miniatures.
Ooh! I didn't know this.
No, now, at the moment, I think they're just using colorized renders. So what format the pre-painted models will take, whether they're going to be like colored 3D prints or they're actually going to be hand painted in some Far Eastern sweatshop, I don't know. But it looks intriguing. The Kickstarter is released as 2 versions, a blue box and a red box, or you can get both versions in a combined box called the Collector's Edition, I think. It's
like
either...
a master pledge level.
Yeah, I think it's either $60 for one of the smaller boxes or $100 for the combination box.
That's not too bad then. They're even giving you a little 20% discount on that.
Yeah, I mean, for this sort of like hobby style board game with custom dice, $100 is about the benchmark, isn't it, mate? You're not going to come in much under that. So I'm definitely going to do some more research.
Give it a look.
Yeah. I don't know how long it's actually got to run. It's got another 18 days for anybody that's interested. I apologise if you're all shouting in the chat because I can't see it at the minute. But
yikes, fix spot. Well, you lot are strange, of course we are. Bet they won't remove the mould lines.
I don't know.
Look,
I mean,
guys,
if they're 3D, if they're colorized 3D prints, there won't be any. I don't know how.
Don't you come round these parts with them dirty words. You'll have a Jerry on your front lawn.
So it looks like the small boxes are going to retail. It says here retail editions, where I think the combined box will probably be just a Kickstarter edition. But which is fair enough. That doesn't say retail, so I'm assuming you won't be able to pick that up outside. There is obviously add-ons, upgrades, unlocks, a ton of other crap.
Is it coming out of the wazoo, though?
I mean, there's your deluxe bundle with everything, the kitchen sink and the camper van to go on holiday. For for $250.
It's going to have microtransactions.
But whatever.
Jerry, are you still here in chat?
So yeah, I don't know what you guys think. I was initially, I don't care, Call of Duty, who gives a fuck. But actually, having had a look, I'll definitely want to know how it plays. Seen Toros. Do you think they'll fucking release a computer version of the board game? Mate, you're such a clown. Microtransactions in your board game. Jerry says yes, answering your question.
I have read in the Colours of War book that the star with the broken ring round it was used for artillery pieces. Like the priest, is it? That's the...
Do you need your desktop cam to show?
No, I don't need it right this second. I just need to make sure I've got the right... Yeah, the M7 priest uses the artillery markings, same as like the tank destroyers. Is the Sherman Calliope, with its rocket barrage on the roof, classed as an artillery piece?
Good question.
That's a crisping question. Well, whoever fucking wants to answer it, don't all clamour to the front of the queue at once.
So, yeah, is a Calliope of an artillery piece by US military markings? Is the question. Right.
But then saying that, no, that has actually got... I'm really confused.
What? Right, let's move on. The next video contains somebody famous.
Not us.
At our club this week, Luke, we got talking about... What were we talking about? We got round to Battlefleet Gothic, I think, didn't we?
Yes, we did.
And Luke, who's the guy at our local club, was saying, there's no real space games that sort of like capture...
Tickle his pickle.
You know, it's why has nobody done anything like Battlefleet Gothic? And we were like, well, I was like, I'm sure there's a few, because I'm sure I've heard people talk on OTT. There was a game called Star Command. I'm sure I've heard people talking about that. We've got Billion Suns, which I know is not really a mass combat space game. It's a bit more mission-y based, isn't it?
Yeah, but
small scale. You've got what's it called? Not X-Wing, the bigger one, Armada from FFG or Atomic Mass as it is now. How long that'll be out, I don't know. But then, bizarrely enough, up comes a new one from
with a certain Jerry playing it.
From the Corvus Belli Infinity universe. Now, I listened to this...
This is going to be way up Luke Street.
I'll be honest, I've listened to it rather than watched it. And I listened because I was doing some painting. So I had ears on, but not eyes on. But I'm going to go back and watch it again. I know Jerry was very taken with the vector movement mechanic in this game. Because it plays... There's like an inertia rule, a bit like in Armada, where you have to move a fixed amount before you can then start manoeuvring.
Yeah.
I think they've got that in here. The other thing that's nice is the weapons affect your inertia and direction. So if you're firing projectile or heavy energy weapons, it can affect your movement.
Divert your power away from your engines kind of thing.
Well, I think also the fact that particularly if you're launching something like a torpedo, obviously in space you've got the conservation of momentum and stuff like that, and you get Newton's, is it third law? Every action has an equal and opposite reaction.
Yes.
So obviously it's a really nice feature.
Science with Paul. So basically just make it up as I go along, then. That's what I'm hearing, Jerry.
The other one, there was... It's not defined. The Lazy Star was introduced for D-Day and it wasn't specific to particular vehicles. So yeah, it looks like that's probably sort of misinformation. Yeah, that's what I thought, Cheese Me, when I was listening. I thought that's a really interesting take on it, because it gives you, you know, because to be honest, it's one of them things with war games. It's just like, fire all of my weapons at them because I want it dead. But if there's consequences for that, that's a really nice game mechanic to put on and play with. You know, I mean, you can do it with, like, say you've only got X energy counters, you can only spend it on maneuvering and shields and weapons, and you've got to balance that management. But essentially, yeah, he said you can do what you like. Calliope is often shown in photographs without any kind of star marking.
It's all right.
Okay, they're just called lazy circles, and they just didn't bother to complete it. So there you go. You learn it all here. So I'm definitely going to be looking at this some more. I tell you what, there was another game that's come to my mind while we're talking about this. There was a space game where you build the ships modularly.
Yes, I remember we saw it and we're like, oh.
Yeah, we saw it. I've seen it. I saw it at UKGE, but I'd seen it on the internet before that. I don't know what that game's called, and I don't know. I think it's more X-Wing, so it's like...
Come on, Gaming Gandalf.
It's 2 or 3 ships, from what I remember, so it's not something of the scale of Battlefield Gothic. But so there is a question for the chat, and to help Luke out, so we can point him in the right direction. Large scale, almost squadron or mass formation space battle games with miniatures. What are we missing? FASA Interceptor game. I don't know what that is. Tauros? Voltron. Snapship Tactics. Gaming Gandalf comes through again. Yep, that's exactly what it was called. Snapship Tactics. Yep. And you literally, because you can build the ship as you build the profile.
Yeah, it's like Lego or whatever, isn't it?
Halo Fleet Battles is dead. Am I correct?
Yes, I believe you are correct.
Because the other one that was mentioned was Drop Fleet Commander, which is a very unique game in its own game. Oh, Silent Death. Star Trek Attack Wing. Now, is that large numbers of ships, or is it a bit X-Wing with like 2 or 3 per side? Tuffy. Let us know. Silent Death. Okay. That Full Thrust. Oh my god. There are you see, I knew there were
some
loads
of these.
of them.
I'm sorry. Some of these are starting to sound like porn names.
That's it. They're just trolling us.
Some fucker had to say it.
Okay, yeah, I thought that was the case, Limburger, but I didn't want to embarrass myself by saying. So yeah, really, Acheron's Fall is the name of the game. This was an early alpha, I think, that Jerry played here, but it's still damned interesting and one to watch for the future. Do you know, Jerry? I didn't really. What's Ramper Designs' sort of timescale on this? When are they expecting to get to released like marketable product? Do you know what the window is on this? Are we going to see it on sale this year? Some of these are older than this. some of the games. That's cool. Right, okay. Keep your eye on the chat. Gaming Gandalf will let us know. Another video that I'm going to call out because it was just fucking brilliantly watchable. MS Paints. The
new studio?
Yeah, it seems we've not seen much from Dave for a while. Gen Con
I tell you why we've not seen much from Dave for a while. He's been in Japan.
Oh, that's right. That's right. I remember seeing some Facebook posts or Instagram posts. Yeah.
I was going to say Instagram. He
Yeah,
was
yeah,
in
yeah,
Japan because he bought a load of shit on sale at like the supermarkets that you can't find in fucking Britain anymore.
yeah.
For love nor money.
Okay. But he's come back with a cracking video. So it looks like he's extended his studio space. But it's, do you know what's nice about this video? It is ostensibly about him building a YouTube and hobby studio. But in there, you've got like a little discussion about his Aliens versus Predator obsession. You've got some fantastic cinematography. You've got some little skits involving him and Hector, the health and safety frog. It's just a great video. For anybody who's not...
He's really fucking watchable.
Yeah. Okay, thanks, Jerry. So it's going to kickstart soon. He's not sure about fulfillment just at the minute. So yeah, MS Paints. Check it out. Great video. This we're going to shout out, and I'm not going to say anything much other than it looks damned interesting. So
What's this?
We were talking about terrain, I think. It was off the back of, if those of you remember last week, Acid House have got a new Kickstarter running.
Oh, this does look interesting.
And
I'm paying attention now.
I can't remember if I was just Googling terrain or something, but this came up. Battlefield in a Box, Gale Force 9, the Hex Tech range.
So, if I'm right in thinking, is it perfect for, what's it called? Battletech.
Well, I don't know, is the honest answer. As I say, I don't... It is hexagonal bases, yes. So presumably, it's designed for anything you'd play on a hex grid. Obviously, it's got a far future sci-fi look. So maybe it is 32mm hex. But I just thought the look of the pieces was amazing. It's just such an interesting aesthetic on these pieces.
Oh dear.
And I don't know, presumably they are multicolour. You literally buy them in this state, which is another super cool thing, because I am a fan of terrain you can just unpack and play with. I mean, you could maybe do some washing on these, but they look pretty good to go with. I'm not sure what they're made of. Possibly resin? You guys are probably informing me in the chat as to what they actually are. Oh, and look, you get the hex bases separate. So you can either...
There's an unboxing on some channel. You can take it off the hex base.
Yeah. Are they resin?
Oh, shit.
I mean,
that was a turret.
I didn't want to drop. They're not the cheapest, I guess. And I'm not sure what the availability is here.
If it's like most other Battlefront products, probably going to struggle to find it.
If it's coming from New Zealand, that's going to be horrible. But if there is a UK distribution on this, I tell you who might know that. The world's greatest expert on the hobby, polystone resin. Look at this. You see, the man's velvety.
Gaming Gandalf here again, rescues the day.
So this is where Jerry puts a list of all of the UK Gale Force 9 stockists in the chat, because he's just got, like, big brain. Jerry Big Brain. And then, last piece of news with 2 minutes to go, which is good because we won't have to dwell on it and be fucking beating ourselves up. So the guys on Tabletop mentioned this project, as we were talking about earlier. Welcome to the OnTableTop site, and welcome to the project system. This was a worthy golden button winner by Only One Pin Man, a user of the site. And he, like me and David, has been tackling his massive Kickstarter Assassin's Creed Brotherhood of Venice board game.
No, correction. Like you and Pin Man.
But unlike me, he's doing far better. So he did similar to me. So he's gone with, I think he's using some sort of slap chop with like graded dry brushing and then just speed paint, splodge, job done. But looks fantastic. Great work. Like me, looks like he's using the assets for the video game as a reference, but his productivity is better than mine. There's a great shot later on. You see, I've done the agiles and I've done the crossbowmen. I like the way, I'm jealous because I haven't done these guys, these heavy guys. I like the way you went with two different colours. He might know something about the way the game plays that I don't. So there might be a reason why you would want two different colours. But now I've looked at his, I'm thinking that might have been a genius idea. The other thing that is shockingly good is his basing. So much work gone into his basing compared to me. And I'm just not even going there. And, you know, it's only simple, like, geometric cobblestone-like stuff, but look at the coloration he's put on these bases. And just in case you're thinking, yeah, but that's only a few figures. What's there? There's been 10, 12 figures there. No, think on, son. This is what he's painted. That is a lot of work. So, yeah, absolute shaming. We are shamed because of that.
We have been flogged.
Awesome. So, yeah, well done, Only One Pin Man. Worthy golden button winner, and humiliated we are. Oh my god!
What's that?
So Jerry's done an unboxing for that Hex Tech. Right, thank you, Jerry. Okay, so we need to go on to the. I shall search later, but apparently it's already there on Tabletop. Banging, good man. Right, well that's it. That's our news.
It's main topic o'clock now, isn't it?
It is. It is. I hope we're all sitting comfortably. I'm going to have a sip of Wixie because I'm getting a little dry and parched.
I need some beer in a second.
Cheers. A hooker did not bite my tongue off.
Not yet.
We need to do... I'm going to have to do a bingo card. I suppose the best thing to do, I'll start an OnTableTop project with our live stream and I'll do a series of bingo cards. We can do like all of our gaffes, like fucking technical difficulties, etc. And then we can do all of Jerry's sayings, like double multi-award winning Moonstone, and then we can play bingo in the chat. I think that would be a good thing to add to the live stream. So, campaign gaming. Are we sitting comfortably?
How do we feel about it? Is it better? Is it worse? Is it good? Is it bad? Let's go on a deep dive, shall we?
Lesson. Yeah, there's another one. Well done. Tuffy's just finished the Marines from the Leviathan. All based. So, yeah. Essentially, I think I don't know how you guys feel, but David and I have had this conversation. We've
got some fucking thoughts.
We love the idea of campaign games. What we mean by that, what do you mean by a campaign game, Paul? What we mean is when you sit down to play a tabletop game, be that
or a board game. Don't exclude the board gaming crowd.
I just said tabletop game, and by tabletop game I mean anything that falls in our nerd sector. Role-playing game, card game, board game, tabletop war game. Okay? When I say tabletop game, I mean all of them. What we mean by a campaign game is you sit down to play a game, and then the next time you sit down and play, there are consequences from what you did in the previous game session. So
Yes.
it builds a chain of games that are related and dependent upon one another. And obviously the flip side of that is you sit down, you play a game, you enjoy that experience, you draw a line under it, and you move on. And when you sit down, you do the same again. And they are independent experiences, even if it's the same
Mutually
game.
exclusive.
Okay? And I think David's the same, love the idea of them. But it's something that actually we don't do very often.
Yes.
This provoked us to sort of like have tonight's discussion and think about why that might be. So, if I go to the next slide.
Next slide, please.
Next slide. I apologise, the text is a little small. I thought when I was preparing the slides, I thought, Jesus, that's a bit big. But actually, now I look at it live on YouTube, it's actually a bit small and I'm wasting the screen.
Meow.
So when we were talking about this, it occurred to me there are a number of different ways that you can do campaign gaming. Okay, for some types of game, this is the default mode. So,
yeah, take what you're given, play what you're given.
Thinking of you, role-playing games, particularly things like D&D, etc.
Oh shit! I've just cut through the plastic. Well done, David.
But essentially, all the different ways. We're going to talk primarily about tabletop war games because that's what we're closest to.
What we enjoy.
Tuffy and Taros. Oh god, a PowerPoint. Is this work? Okay. So
it's so that this old timer doesn't forget to mention something, as we have done on other streams.
Okay, so one of the common sort of like types of campaign will be something that's organised. I think somebody mentioned it. Tuffy, our old club used to do campaigns, play for about a month and then get fed up with it. So obviously I imagine somebody in your club came up with an idea for a campaign, a series of linked games. There might be additional rules to lay on top. A lot of companies are starting to do these as part of like global events or promotional events. Infinity, Corvus Belli have done several. Games Workshop have dabbled with this in the past, haven't they? Storm of Chaos. Sorry?
And recently, 10th edition. They have
they?
What faction got released next based on like how Leviathan boxes played.
Oh, okay. That's fair. I didn't know that, but there you go.
Yeah, but GW, so...
Who else has done like... David and I are currently...
Mantic, Kings of War.
Mantic have done a couple of big campaigns.
Yeah, but they've got the one coming, haven't they? The Kings of War Storm of Shadows?
Yes, that's correct. That's coming in September? Question mark?
We're down with the kids. We know our dates.
So, yeah. That's one way. Another way is that it can actually be part of a game's... good call. Multi-award winning Moonstone. They had the Eric campaign rather than Elric.
Yes, they did.
So those are sort of like... The other thing is, obviously, as you can see from the slide, those campaigns can fall into
Paul,
two categories.
They can't see from the slide because the text is that small, people can't read it
I
at home.
apologise. Right.
You know I love roasting you, mate. Don't worry about it.
What was I going to say? The other thing is, like, we mentioned Infinity, we mentioned Mantic. I think GW did do this, but then retconned it. Some of these companies make these campaigns tie into the narrative of their universe.
And
So
the lore.
when whatever outcome happens, modifies
Isn't
their
that how
world.
Cadia fell and
Yeah,
got destroyed?
and I think like they did. Correct me if I'm wrong. Somebody didn't they do a massive fantasy campaign called Storm of Chaos, or was it for 40k? And then there was an outcome. I think that Chaos destroyed mankind, and they basically said, "Nah, only joking. It didn't." And they just retconned it and said, "Nah, fuck it." Oh my god, I've opened up a can of worms. I'm going to go and re-prepare the slides. That's brutal. Yeah, I thought so, Jerry. But the other thing that can happen with these sort of campaigns is, like Tuffy mentioned, obviously if you do one of these campaigns in your club, it doesn't have world-ending impact.
No, it's just
something
your
that tells
local
a little
two
bit of a
mates
story.
or several mates dicking around, isn't
Yeah.
it?
The other thing is you can actually have games designed with this play mode in their DNA.
Frostgrave, anyone?
Gloomhaven, we talked about several weeks now, haven't we, mate? What did you just say?
Frostgrave.
Frostgrave. Mordheim is another one that comes to mind. So there's that. And the other one that we thought of was that manufacturers
you can bolt it on after, can't you?
Yeah, so you can come up with a new game mode. So the one that I thought of straight away was Crusade for 40k, which is that god-awful bookkeeping mode that turns your 40k army into a
It's an
spreadsheet.
accountancy project.
Oh, so the Doomed is one. Now you see, Jerry, David saw that Doomed, and he sent me a message. I think it was on Facebook, and I was like, "Yeah, I have seen this, mate. It's all over on Tabletop. They've talked about it loads." But that looks like that's another one of these campaign games, mate.
That's why I was excited for it.
Okay, yeah, 5 Leagues, Rangers of Shadow Deep, pretty much everything by Joseph McCulloch. Just sort of saying.
Silver Bayonet, anyone?
Yeah, yeah. You guys, Station Zero. So yeah, loads of different ways that you can have sort of campaign modes.
See, yes, there is the campaign in Gaslands, but I've been playing that, and a lot of the lads at club have been playing that as a what's it called? Pick up and play, because it's just throwing some miniatures or throwing some cards down on the table and being done with it. Yeah. Fucking decals and curved surfaces. God fucking damn it.
What do you mean curved surfaces? God damn it. They're tanks. I suppose the
Have you seen the back of a Pershing turret, you cunt?
Yeah, okay. As soon as I thought that, I thought, oh, I bet he's on the edge of the turrets. Right, let's see if we can... Let's fucking...
Paul has instant regrets.
Let's stop the trolling. See if we can.
Why would you ever stop trolling? It's what you do fucking best, isn't it?
No, I don't want to be a victim of it. Oh, fuck. Anyway, let's carry on with the show. Let's exhibit some professionalism and just soldier on regardless. So, this is the meat and potatoes of it. We love the idea of it, but why don't we do it? Okay? So what are the pros of campaign games? So the first thing I've got here is storytelling and scenarios. So one of the massive appeals to these sort of games, certainly for me, is that sometimes when you sit down and play a game, and I find this particularly with board games, I can enjoy a board game experience. Like Scythe,
in singularity, can't you?
Scythe is one that comes to mind. I sit down and I play that game.
Everdell
has got a little bit more appeal, but then again, I love the aesthetic. It sings for me more, so it's not a great example of this. But for me, if I sit down and play Pandemic, and I sit down and played Scythe. These are two heavy-hitting, massively popular hobby board games. And I enjoyed them, but I don't care if I never play them again, because there was an experience there. I enjoyed it. I'm done with it. That's it. Do you know what I mean? Whereas when I put miniatures on a table, even when I'm not playing in campaign mode, there's a lot more immersion and a lot more engagement from me. And if you put a campaign mode in my gaming experience, where I develop my warband and I have to worry about the consequences of casualties and stuff like that, my immersion's going way up. And that storytelling really is a strength of campaign games, I think.
Yes.
Go on, mate.
Another thing is, I don't know if it's on there, that water cooler moment. Whilst you can still have them in obviously pick up and play games, not to the same extent in my personal experience. Again, we've mentioned it before on this channel. We'll mention it again. Johnny Rambo, fucking 4 games, Deadshot sniper rifle, fucking takes down a giant worm with a hunting knife, all of the above.
Apparently he's not able to roll anything other than a natural 20.
So again, it's just like, oh, okay, Johnny Rambo is got named. Every other grunt in that warband didn't get a name, did he?
No, but again, I think you're right. You can have water cooler moments in any gaming experience.
Well, again, we've had water cooler moments in 40k. My Tau Chasseray jumping out and fusioning your fucking monolith's face for turns and turns on end, and it's just like the one Chasseray that wouldn't fucking die no matter what.
Yeah.
Even at the end of it, I was wishing he was fucking dead, because I was fed up of pulling the same shit on turn 5 that I've been pulling since turn 2, with the rest of his rest of his team whittled down. But it's not the same. Do you know what I mean? It's nowhere near the same as John Rambo. So,
and I think part of that is that if you have a water cooler moment in a game, it's sort of ever present in your mind when you play the next game, isn't it?
Yes.
You know, this is the gaming mode builds narrative, and in a way that you don't get with freestanding discrete games.
Well, again, even Arkham that we played recently, the campaign for Arkham, a game design that we were like, well, this is going to last all of about 5 minutes because we're going to die. Just
to be clear to everybody at home, so this falls into the category of a game mode that was added in an expansion for the Arkham Horror board game. And the idea was you take something that is a discrete sit down and play an experience into a linked chain of events. With no character development as such, but basically you just play the same characters and just get an increasingly difficult progression.
Don't die, don't go insane.
Yeah. Basically, kill as many people as you like, but make sure you save the world. If the world ends, the world ends. And it was really good. Good fun. Another one that we've got on the list here was increased skill at the game. when you play a campaign game, because of the nature of the beast, you have to play that game again and again and again and again. And by just the nature of repetition, you actually get better at games when you just play them over and over and over again. I think everybody can agree that that's like just something that happens even without you having to try too hard. And obviously that's good because you master a game when you play it more often. And one of the drawbacks with the pick up and play system is that because you are free to jump from game to game week in, week out.
Here's another thing that we didn't really talk about pre-stream. 40k or any game, if you're playing that narrative and your list is staying the same, it allows you to actually get to know your units.
Yeah. Well,
whereas
again,
a pick up and play, you're just like, okay, what am I facing this week? Oh, I'm facing guard. Right, I better take a load of melter and shit then to deal with those tanks, and then the next game you need grav or plasma, and obviously the rules on that play completely differently.
I mean,
Do you know what I mean?
I'm sure there are games out there with a campaign or narrative system. I mean, actually thinking about it, if you play something like Kill Team or Warcry, you're supposed to have a roster of like 20 minis, and then you just take 10 for each game. So you could have a changing list technically, but still be playing a narrative game with a campaign mode.
Yes.
So it's not universally true, but it is definitely something that often happens, isn't it?
Yes.
This is a huge one. Emotional investment in it, mate.
Yes.
And to be honest, we've probably already touched on this with the satisfaction of the narrative and the storytelling. They just seem to be so much more engaging in terms of... It's like you get attached to that character. It matters when your warband leader gets that, and you think, oh shit, my wizard's dead. I'm going to have to promote my... apprentice. But those sort of consequences, they engage you in a way that doesn't happen.
Don't necessarily. Again, your wizard might be carrying some injuries, so you're like, oh, okay, I'm not gonna throw him in the front line because I can't risk him.
Yep.
I'm so invested in him, I don't want to risk him.
That's an interesting take. Have you seen Cheese Me's comment? So Cheese Me put here, is a campaign game simply a matter of bookkeeping your one-off games? I mean, that's definitely something you can do, Cheese Me. I mean, like, not so big in our sector, but there are people in the board gaming space, the hobby board gaming space, they literally keep lists of all of the games they play in a year, the number of times they played that game in a year, the score they got when they played that game. And no, I'm not casting shade. Everybody just do what you find fun. There are some people that that's a big part of the hobby for them, almost like scalp taking for these games and actually trying to get a list. I don't necessarily think it falls within what we're talking about, and I don't think it's keep a list of the kills for your warband campaign system. Done. I don't think it's necessarily in the purview of what we're talking about, and I don't think it's necessarily big in wargaming. I mean, I've never met anybody with a little black book who's gone, last week I killed
Frostgrave.
40 cow.
Frostgrave, you wanker. Frostgrave.
Well, yeah, but that's because of the experience system, isn't it? But again, you keep a note of your experience, but you know.
Actually, we'll come to the elephant in the room at the moment as well. Whilst Frostgrave is a campaign system and a very, very fucking good campaign system at that, shown as part of the game design, the fact that you can have a level 25 wizard and a level 2 wizard playing the same game and it not be a complete and utter clusterfuck. Hats off to the game design on that one.
Yeah, because that'll appear in our next list as something that often goes wrong. And in fact, actually, I could scroll back and look, but somebody's already shouted that out. That campaign games can sometimes have, shall we say, balance issues. Anyway, something else that we thought was a real pro is that, I don't know about you guys, but I find that narrative games drive hobby commitment and hobby projects way stronger than pick up and play experiences.
Yes.
And I don't just mean not painting with unpainted minis, but I mean it's the next level. Particularly David and I thought Frostgrave is big for us because it's like all of the scenarios in Frostgrave are so shot through with flavour and story that they demand very specific terrain pieces from you. They noted Orinoco. That, you know, they demand certain terrain pieces from you, they demand certain table layouts, or even terrain collections. You know, to be honest, that's one of the great things about Joseph's supplements that he's released for Frostgrave. They take such, I mean, like, I can't remember the name of it, the third release, which was it might have been the second, which was the Caverns one, took the whole game underground. He's really great at pushing the boundaries of what
into the breeding pits. Into the
breeding pits. Well done. Yes. I think that's definitely a. Yeah, that's right. Darren said, yeah, Frostgrave and Rangers have basically built-in shopping
Orinoco
lists.
is calling us out here.
I know. I didn't say noted. So as another massive commitment. And then I don't know if you want to take the last one, mate. And it's basically about maybe revitalising interest and enthusiasm in something that you've not...
Yeah, I mean, we touched on this briefly before stream last night. Our local club has a Blood Bowl league, has a Blood Bowl tournament, the Sherwood Cup. And I will partake in that, but to an extent. When I'm playing Blood Bowl, I like to play with a hand tied behind my back. I'll play with Skaven and 4 Gutter Runners because I'm an absolute fucking madman. I'll play Halflings as well, was a thought at one point. Just for taking the game that is renowned for being a bit broken and twisting it on its head. It's a game you won't touch. However, there are games that we've said, like, again, your Bolt Action, we've said about doing like a little Fall of Malaya campaign, run through 4 or 5 scenarios.
Yeah. And to be fair, I think, like, Warlord do stuff in their campaign books that you don't even need to do any work. You literally just need to play it.
No, but this is what I'm saying, for getting that interest back into the game and playing it. Do you know what I mean? Yeah,
I mean, because again, there might... I can't think of a good example for myself personally, but I'm betting you that there were people who had, like, maybe moved on from 40k and gone into other games, but as soon as Crusade came out as a gaming mode, they were like, ooh, do you mean like Mordheim, but for 40k? And I bet you that there is always going to be a sector, I think, of players where that is going to be something. If you stick a campaign mode or a linked set of games onto it, it's going to make them go, do you know what? Yeah. I mean, again, Blood Bowl might be a great example. I'm sort of the opposite. I like Blood Bowl to be a discrete playing experience. I don't like leagues. I find
this is where
But like
differ on
David
that.
said, there might be a player who's the opposite of me, which is like Dan. Dan doesn't like playing Blood Bowl unless it's in a league, does he?
No, again, as I've just commented, I will partake in single games of that, but I'm also quite a fan of
But
league
do you have
style.
a preference?
I don't really have a preference.
Okay.
It's like a 50-50 for me.
Yeah, yeah.
But when I'm playing league, I do make up my own rules as I'm going along. And I don't mean that I play the game differently and make my own game rules up. I play the game with a hand tied behind my back. I like to play the game on hard mode.
Yeah, I agree with Orinoco. The problem with it is the way that the league rules are written by Games Workshop. They're broken and they lead to winners winning and losers losing, and it's a spiral of descent. It's like there's a massive snowballing factor, but we'll talk about that in the next slide. Just before we move on, David mentioned this last night, and I hadn't thought about it, but it was a brilliant observation. There is like a hidden pro, and we've mentioned it in passing with this idea that if you have to play many games of a game, you get better at it. But if you have to play the same game every week, every month for a year, one thing that's going to do is take away your opportunity to try new games. And given the expense of our hobby and the sort of like looming global recession, anything that can keep you away from the spending might actually be a pro in some people's eyes.
Yeah, this is true.
And it does require a certain lens, but I think it's a valid point.
Don't be a David.
Yeah, or a Paul, and play every game. Or
Speaking
not play
of which,
every game, but buy every game.
Staying away from buying things on the internet that we spoke about last week on stream.
Yeah, how's that going?
Really well, because I've just gone and bought some 15mm terrain for Flames of War.
To be fair, at least that's semi-planned. That doesn't count as an impulse, which me dropping €60 on Acid House definitely counts as impulse.
Look, we lack impulse control, boys and girls. If you didn't know this, guess what?
It's true.
We do.
Yes, Cheese Me. Blood Bowl, basically you gain star player points for doing touchdowns and that sort of thing. Then you can use them to buy skills.
And passing. And
yeah, so obviously if your team wins and scores tons of touchdowns and gets loads of casualties on the opposing team, you get a shit ton of star player points, which you then feed back into buffs and skills, which make your players even better. Meanwhile, your opponent has had 3 casualties, so he's 4 players down, no experience, and in his next game, he's got a massive uphill slog. To be fair, Cheese Me, it could be fixed. The bigger problem, the experience isn't such a huge problem. The big problem with Blood Bowl leagues is the casualty system, because as you start to lose players that you can field, your games become measurably harder.
Or again, if you're down on cash and you play with the journeyman with no skills.
Yeah. I mean,
or again, your star player with all the skills gets murder hoboed off the table.
I've played in, like, when they played Blood Bowl tournaments at Games Workshop, these like one-day events, essentially, at the end of the game, you had no casualty reconciliation. Each player got to give I think 2 players a single skill upgrade. So there was no, everybody got the same. Everybody's team progressed through the matches, so there was an element of progression, but it was arbitrarily built in to fix it so that everybody was entering each match at the same level. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
There are systems in Blood Bowl, like David mentioned. When you can't field enough players, you get free journeymen. and the only penalty is they count as a single lineman. They count as a basic lineman, and you can't use a reroll on them. But obviously, if you're getting your specialists, like your blitzers and blockers, taken out, and all you're getting is shitty linemen to replace them, you're in a massive back foot, even if you're not paying for them for that game. One of the other things that you can do is, like, each player that gets an upgrade, it increases their base gold cost, so they become more expensive. So obviously, if you play a system where, regardless of how much your roster's worth, say you've got an elite roster of super buff players that adds up to like 3 million gold. If you put in a rule, well, it doesn't matter how many's on that sheet, you can only bring 1 million to the playing field. That would be a really good leveler.
Yeah, because then you could play with like 7-man teams, etc.
Well, it would force, it gives you a way to offset the massive overloaded winner against possibly the biggest loser. But
we should give that a go at some point.
I mean, I'll be honest, you could do it. You could easily fix it, but I don't really see it's worth the effort, because Blood Bowl, if you just pay pickup games, 1 million, 1.5 million gold if you're using star players. Just build a roster, play your mate, have fun for a couple of hours. It's a cracking beer and pretzels game. Don't do the league thing, would be my general advice. Right, last one. We just said that emotional investment was a massive pro. Here it is on the cons list as well, because
we like a curveball on the show.
Obviously, becoming emotionally invested in a game, thinking about Blood Bowl as a good example. When you're in a Blood Bowl league and you lose your first game, and you then have to play the next game with 9 players and 2 journeymen, and then you get Nurgled or some other fucking breakneck dwarves that inflict another 3 or 4 casualties, so that your next match you're 5 players down and on 5 journeymen with still no experience.
It's a bit feel bad.
That's an emotional investment, but in a very negative way. And this, I think, is where Tuffy mentioned it earlier. This, in my experience, is the thing that kills a lot of campaigns. Because unless you've got a very clear idea of what you're trying to achieve, you will get winners winning, losers losing, everybody quickly becomes separated by a massive gulf. All of these people lose any motivation to keep playing this game at all. And what happens? They suddenly have other plans. They can't make their game. They want to play something else. Yeah. So overcooking the emotional investment definitely appears on the cons list. Another massive one, mate. Do you want to take this? Time investment.
Oh, yeah. So this actually comes to where we come as a set of players.
This is probably the biggest one for us, isn't it? I would say.
We are hobby magpies. We like to jump around, flit around between the games we're playing, the systems we're playing, etc., and everything else. That's fine. If we were to play a narrative campaign of something and say, just spitballing here, it has to be 6 games that you play your narrative campaign to get to your end goal and your fulfillment.
For example,
it's got a decent volume on there, decent enough to get some progress and development. For us, that would be 6 months, which is way too much time and investment. And the other thing is that, yes, I want to play the game. Yes, I enjoy playing the game, but do I enjoy playing the game more for the fact of, I can play it when I want, I can schedule it in with you. For example, this coming week, you haven't got anything planned, so I've just roped you into Armada. Versus the time and effort that goes into scheduling your game, making sure your compatriots also in the right headspace and everything else to play it. time and effort that goes into either building and developing a list, building and developing the terrain, etc. for your scenarios. Again, Frostgrave is a good example of this. Of we're going to play these 6 games in the campaign. Well, actually, we need this terrain, that terrain, the other terrain. We need to get all that done in the background while we're doing this. So there is a element of hobby magpieism for us that the time investment and dragging it out works. But we're not everyone. There are people that want a definitive finite experience and to get it done in like 2 weeks. And fuck you, cheese me.
Yeah. As I say, this is the biggest one, I think. Like David's just said it all. Me and him play so many games. If we were to take such a huge chunk of our gaming time and say allocate it to one project, it's a big ask. And me and him
Again,
sort of like walk away from the brink all the time.
Look at what we're doing at the moment as a pair. We've got our club, we've got our schedule for the next 2 months at club and what we're playing and who we're playing and what we're doing. I've got a bit of an Armada heavy month this month. I'm thinking by the 3rd game I'm going to be a little bit burnt out of Armada and I'm probably not going to touch it for 2 months after that. That's the brutally honest truth. It's 4 weeks back to back of me playing Armada.
Games, yeah.
Yes. Versus our Arkham Horror campaign and our Gloomhaven campaigns that we're playing at the moment. As a definitive pet. This is the other thing, right? It kind of comes under time, but it also comes under player commitment.
Funnily enough, you've already the next one on the list was spontaneity, which you've already talked about.
I'm just taking them all, am I?
And then the next one on the list is commitment to play, which you're about to start talking about now, isn't it?
Yeah, so again, the reason me and Paul play campaigns and we play 2-player campaigns is because we hang out every other weekend and we have 1 weekend a month that we play a campaign game and then the other weekend is to do something else or play more of the campaign or hobby or just have some time chilling as friends.
I mean, I consider myself so lucky that I found 3 players that were committed enough for us to play an entire campaign cycle of the Arkham Horror living card game.
Yes.
And was that experience playing it as a group of 4 people through the entire story arc, was that better than doing it solo or with one other person? Absolutely it was. Will I get those stars to align again in my lifetime? Probably not. Because it's so difficult. It's like David said, me and him, just 2 people, that's hard enough. 3, 4? I don't know how. I'll be honest, total respect for role-playing groups.
And board gaming groups.
To be fair,
that are playing Arkham Horror.
Yeah, how you people...
full player count.
Get that number of... How you get that cluster of super committed people to stay on target to allow you to go through like long campaigns. Fucking legendary. Well done, you. The next one was already been spoiled by the chat. Balance issues. I've talked about it tons with like Blood Bowl, what I call the snowball effect. If you have some sort of campaign system that has a development mechanic built into it where one player gets better and another player might get worse because they didn't win, unless you are very careful about balancing that, you will quickly break your campaign.
I was going to say Frostgrave is a good example of balance here because again with 2nd edition, how you can build your lists has changed, how you can level up has changed, so you can only level up 3 times between games, no more 5 or 6 level boost games, etc., etc. So hats off to Joseph for that rule system.
Do you know what though, mate? I'm going to say this. I think the biggest thing that works in terms of Frostgrave in that regard is the core premise of the game is non-confrontational. Frostgrave, and I don't know if Joseph, I don't know, I'm not privy to Joseph's design philosophy and his thinking, but it seems to me he created an adversarial game where the core interaction was not necessarily about smashing the other opponent.
Well, again, you
your
used to
opponent's
get rewarded
face.
for it, didn't you? And then that was like, nope,
That's
that
very
can fuck
true.
right off.
They took it away, and actually, so there you go. We do get an insight into the design philosophy. When they moved to second edition, they took away the experience award for killing enemy models because they wanted to lean into the non-interactivity element, which again helps balance. If you've got a level 15 wizard against a starting warband, there's no need to be hyper-aggressive. You've got nothing to gain by kicking your opponent's teeth down the back of their throat. Grab the chests and fuck off. Or play the mission and then get done. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
Yeah. Next on the list is hogging your gaming time, which we've sort
And
of
partners.
covered. Yeah. We've sort of covered this. It's because it's all part of the time investment. Somebody in chat actually called the next one. I think it might have been Darren. So one of the problems with campaigns is that, let's take the club example. Let's say you have a gaming club and it's a really successful gaming club and you've got like 40 to 60 people who come, every other week or whatever. And then suddenly all of the 40k players get balls deep into this campaign that involves they're playing this long league of games where every 40k player is booked in, so they're playing something to do with this campaign or league, and then somebody else rocks up at your club and they just want to play a game of 40k, but suddenly everybody's committed to this thing. So where's the space for this person? They're not going to drop in midway through that campaign. That player's campaign game isn't going to have anything to do with this new player. So, and for other reasons, these sort of campaign mode games can be very anti-new player, is the best way I could think of to put it.
Well, again, just anti-inclusion, because again, I said about doing a Necromunda tournament campaign-y thing, didn't I?
Yeah.
But I wanted it to be Frostgrave-esque, and you can just drop in and out, play when you want, do what you want, and get what you want out of the game. If you want to play every single fucking game, every single fucking week, do it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you want to play a game, come back to it 3 months later when it's next on your list, go do it. Like, you're not beholden. I'm not beholden to you've got to play the game this time, because again, I suffer with like attention span and wanting to play the same game multiple weeks in a row, let alone wanting to play the same game multiple weeks in a row with the same opponents for the same outcomes.
Yeah. Yeah, because, and again, the last comment on the slide there, and again, we've touched upon it in all sorts of other sort of like veins, but if you do get deep into one of these campaign games, it closes the door for you to discover new gaming experiences with new opponents. You know, if
it's cliquey and not inclusive.
Yeah, as I say, you can definitely, there is definitely an element of, you can just be good, be a nice person about it. If you're obsessed with a particular game, but you're in a club and this is a social hobby, just play the game your mate wants to play for a couple of weeks. You know, let's mix things up a bit. Let's be nice people about it. But, and I definitely get that that's a thing. But all we're saying is that sometimes these campaign games can be they're not very conducive to that. They require too much from you.
Bookkeeping,
yeah,
investment, anything else like that.
I'm hoping that we haven't missed anything from the chat. That's pretty much all that we've got on the subject, though.
Or no, they could play a different game with someone else, or even paint the same game. David, what do you mean there, Orinoco?
Do you mean do some hobby instead? Yes. I mean, yeah. I mean, David's talked about it. Frost, because again, there are all sorts of. We talked about it right at the beginning, and to be fair, that's why I put that segment in to explain, to talk about what do we mean by campaign games. Because the thing is, you're talking about a simple idea, which is you link games together with some sort of relatable consequence from game A to game B to game C. But there are 10,000 permutations of how you do that. And some of those permutations, like Frostgrave, as David has said multiple times, are very pick and mixy.
Well, again, Frostgrave's even got campaigns inside campaigns.
Yeah.
So the game itself is narrative and developmental, but then you've got the Thor of the Lich Lord campaign and things.
Which somebody's mentioned in chat. Exactly. You've got the core campaign mode, which is the fact that your warband changes, you have casualties to track, you gain resources, you gain experience. But then again, the missions, the scenarios might have a mini story going on.
Yeah.
And it's wheels within wheels. Whereas other games, like Blood Bowl, if you're in a league, you're in a league. You start the league, you play the games defined by the league, there is a winner at the end. Line drawn,
And you're done.
That is the end. So there's a huge range of, permutations of this. Infinity's global campaigns that they often do through OnTabletop. There are they basically issue a mission pack. The only restriction is all missions paid for that campaign must come from games listed in the mission pack, which is not the typical ITS that's running at the time, the tournament pack.
It's an ITS variant.
Oh, I see. Right. So Orinoco's comment was about the 40k player who turns up at the club and then can't get one, so they could try. Yeah, absolutely. You are correct. Somebody at the club could just say, well, unfortunately, all the 40k players are in this thing at the minute. But we've got a guy there who would like to play fucking Frostgrave or whatever, or Firefight. Do you want to just do that with your models or one-page rules? Yeah, you're right. There are always solutions. There are always answers. And the other thing is, we're getting close to time. David and I prefaced this. This is not an opinion piece this week, because I don't think there is necessarily a better.
There's not a right or wrong way.
No.
This is just verbal diarrhea of our thoughts and opinions on the matters.
Yeah.
And why both of us are really hyped and excited to play campaign games. But it never actually comes to fruition and bearing fruit, does it?
Well, do you know what? I was going to finish with exactly what you just said, mate. The old mea culpa. I said earlier about board games, right? It doesn't take much for me to get fucking obsessed with a miniatures war game. I am I'm on a knife edge. Whatever I'm looking at models and stuff, I'm like, I could buy, collect and paint them. That would be fucking awesome. And I could build this army. I'm right there. Board games, I'm a little bit cooler. You know, I look at a board game and think, oh, that looks fun. Yeah, I'll play that. And then I play it, and then I walk away and I never think about it again.
Or you do a David.
But I tell you what, if I see a board game and it says it's got some massive campaign mode with 50 missions that I play through as one massive multi-episode story, I'm like a slavering dog. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And all of the board games I've bought are like that. Gloomhaven, Assassin's Creed.
I'm about to put a spanner in your works.
What?
Gloomhaven gives us both migraines, but we touched on that the other week with RNG.
Yeah. And again, I don't understand why that is. I'm an idiot. Because we've just rationalised it here on the screen above me. These are all the reasons why these board games are a fucking bad idea.
Again, Arkham Horror, for me, is that I've got to go out and get everything because I love the game and I love to do it all standalone. But at some point in my lifetime of owning that game, I want to do an entire campaign arc with the escalation and live through it.
You won't, mate, because the difficulty.
No, I know I won't
so
ever
hard.
fucking do it, and I will die an unhappy man.
You'll have to get your juju stick and start resurrecting flipping Calvin Wright, because he's the only man who can make it. Him and his busted mate Ashcan Pete, with his resolve to events every phase.
How did your hobby go this evening?
Well, I shall wake my camera up.
That's what I was just about to say. I'm just about to do mine.
I did actually get some. I got about a quarter of a ship done. So
nice.
I consider that to be good, because this was not a great choice of job for. Oh, hang on a minute. That's it. Now the mobile knows which is up and which is down.
Stop zooming in, you piece of shit.
Right, here we go. So I did get a little bit of gold paint on these. But it's a lot of work. To be fair, this small one shouldn't be too bad. I've got these central cannons and then this fan at the back. And then I've got to do it on this side. This one should only take... But I've just said that. And then there's all this lining on these raised pavilions and deck platforms. Fuck. So yes, I got some done, but hardly any. But that's fair.
I have 2 vehicles left to decal.
Do you want your camera on? Here we go.
Yeah, go for my camera. So I've got my greyhounds left to decal. That's it.
Have you got the other stuff to show us?
Yeah, I'm going for it now. Look at them.
Oh, they look nice. Well done.
And then apparently they put a big one on the engine deck to stop airstrikes.
Oh, okay.
So I might be doing the engine ones tonight before I go to bed. But we're getting there, and we're looking good doing it. And I'm really fucking happy with this. Look how this has turned out.
Oh, well done.
So I just slid it right up against it and then got the scalpel and cut it. So
somebody did suggest, I don't know if they were being sarcastic.
slide it under the bonnet.
Have you seen the chat? Orinoco, are they upside down?
Orinoco? No. And then the Pershings have this little baby star at the front and I fucking love it. But this is the one that I was on about earlier when I was swearing profusely on stream, because tank turrets aren't curved apparently, Paul.
Oh, Jesus. It's curved in 2 planes.
Yes, it is.
Fuck that.
Fucking nightmare.
That's like a bloody marine shoulder. Fuck. I hate doing those.
So yeah, I've had a productive evening, boys and girls. We've deckled up 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 vehicles.
My God, he's a bloody machine.
The star is pointing up. The star is pointing up.
He's going to be studying them for the next 30 minutes. Well done, chat. Right, it's getting to the end. We've reached 10 o'clock. We do hope that you enjoy the show.
Fuck you, Cheese Me.
Oh dear, he's really getting some salt on now. We're going to have to season him right up.
Where's the paprika and the garlic?
Yeah, and that's what I have to do, a whole herb sachet sprinkling down from above. Thank you very much for being with us for the last couple of hours. We hope the subject was fun for you, and I hope it sort of, provoked a little bit of thinking and a bit of, awareness. And maybe it's sort of like you've got some thoughts on campaign games yourself. Is it the only way you like to play? Or because of all the reasons we stated under our cons, is it something that you don't touch with a barge pole? Did we miss anything? Is there like, you missed the best bit about campaign gaming, and it is whatever? Put it in the comments.
Throw it in the comments.
If you can only find time to do one thing, please click the like button, which is here.
Can you English?
Yeah, click the like button. Too much whiskey. Please click the like button. It only takes a second and it helps us massively with the YouTube algorithm. If you can find time to do any of the other stuff that's listed below it, share, comment, subscribe to feed the YouTube machine, do that then as well if you can, and we will be eternally grateful. Massive thanks to the chat, the guys who are here live with us. As always, their interaction is what makes this show hopefully entertaining to watch, and it certainly makes it entertaining for us to do. And with that, unless you've got anything else to say, mate, I think we're ready to sign out.
I think the only thing to sign off with is, when are we doing our campaign?
So, yeah, okay. Orinoco said in the chat about halfway through the show that we should do an OnTableTop project where we play through a campaign. So, here's a thing for the comments. What game?
What would people like to see?
What game? What sort of campaign?
Cheese Me's already calling me out.
If I wait till he's done his Assassin's Creed, it'll never fucking happen. Right, and with that, we're out of here. Goodbye.